Everyone, it's 28th of March and I've decided to start putting stuff in the ground now. I've got some lettuce here. It's called Valian, if I remember correctly, and it's long overdue to go out, to be honest. It can handle the cold weather, supposedly. I've never grown it before, but then I've got me Durham early spring greens, a little bit on the small side, but I'll get them in, because the idea with these is to get them in and get them out pretty quick, so I can use this for some sort of later salads, because I'm going to put my main salads in that next bed there, which will be going in next week or two. They'll be going in as well, which might be added to this video. So I've kind of just worked out my spacings. The spring greens, Durham early. Usually you'd grow spring greens, you'd sow them sort of, the year before, over winter in the ground, so you could sow them, get them in the ground sort of September, October, and get an early picking, from sort of March onwards. So I don't really grow them like the conventional way. I just put them in, and I don't grow them for a heart. I just pick them before they even start forming a heart. Well, they're just a loosely cabbage, really. Certain varieties do better than others. Greyhound's okay. Durham early is a good one. And otherwise, use collards, which I've got some collard greens on the go, which I don't know where things are going to go yet. I've been standing around looking at where I'm going to plant things, and there's no sort of set plan yet. Nothing's finally coming together. So I thought I'll commit myself and get these in here, and then at least I've got something growing while I work out where my onions are going to go and everything else. So spacings, spring greens usually put quite close together, sort of similar spacing to lettuce, really, sort of 9 to 12 inches apart. Because these lettuce I'm not growing for cut and come again. These are just going to be lop off, take the whole lot. So they're kind of probably about 9 inch that way and 8 inch that way. Because they're just like a romaine, really, or a cost lettuce. So I've just got my little broken spade handle that I've just chamfered off at the end to dib that. I'll probably use a little trowel for these little tiny pots. So it's pretty straightforward, really. It has had a bit of a rain last night, but not much. Obviously, it's very dry on the top. So it can be a bit stubborn to actually dib these holes. It's usually better off with the surface a bit damp, so the holes aren't filling in. You just got to hope these come out of here okay, because they're absolutely desperate to go in. I'm not going to press them down too hard because they are very wet, because they're sort of like been wilting daily. So I really need to get these out. I mean, usually trim a few of the yellow leaves off, but I'll give them a day or two to settle in, and then I'll clean up around the bottoms. So it's fairly straightforward. It's just nice to actually be on the go finally, after seems like an eternity winter. Sat there looking out at a glum bare garden, or a plot, and finally get some things out. There's some of these seedlings that are a little bit behind. That was a lot smaller, because it's in the middle. It's just basically lack of light, but they'll all kind of catch up. You might get the odd one damp off, or wind rock, because some lettuce don't do that well when we get rocks about in the wind. These are quite wet, so I probably won't actually water these today, to be honest. Try and get some of that water to wick out the root ball into the surrounding area, and then I'll give them water if it doesn't rain tomorrow. But there are plenty of roots on them anyway. They're probably borderline being a little bit root bound. But yeah, I've never grown these before, and they're kind of looking nice and upright at the moment as they are. Because sometimes you think, nice tight romaine heart. It's nice and upright. Not too many big outer leaves, because some of them end up really big. These have been coming outside for a few hours each day, just to give them a wobble about in the wind. So I'm a big believer that, if you're going to put them outside eventually, you need to start introducing them to breeze. You know, so I've got some other stuff out as well, on the onions and that, they're outside, just to get a wobble about. And it just kind of gets the plant to release a hormone to, you know, stop so much of the growing sort of thing and concentrate on sturdying up. Because once it's all sturdy, it can take a bit of wind and a heavy downpour. Obviously a little bit of insect damage as well, because it'll be generally a bit harder. And he used to say, like, you know, give all your seedlings a good water before you know, take them out of the pots. Usually I tend to do the opposite. I let them dry out a bit, because it just makes the compost shrink a bit. You know, to actually, so they pop out easy enough. Otherwise you can end up pulling your plant out and losing half the roots if you're not careful. But I thought, as we're due for some rain, it is due to cool off a bit. I don't think I'll bother fleecing these. I'll risk them. You know, because it is a bit of an early one. You know, but the ground temperature at the bottom of these beds is about 13 degrees. I've been checking it the last few days. You know, I think once you get above 10, you're okay. And if you get any cold weather, there's a little, obviously the heat's still rising from the ground, so if you can pop a fleece over them if you need to. On the side and do these. That's it, because I sold far too many seedlings, and then it's just whatever's doing well makes the final cut, really. And because I hate having space, I'd rather have surplus seedlings I can pot on, or try and hold back a little bit until space comes available than, you know, staring at the bare ground in the middle of the season. You know, I should imagine these will reach full size probably about end of April to May. Once they've tapped in, usually like 2 weeks, not a lot goes on, and they're just busy putting roots out into that new ground. Nice fresh batch of nutrients in there. All I've done is I've just dusted the top with some calcified seaweed and just baked it in. No other feed. It's just, I mean, I put some stuff on it in the winter time, which is just some old pots. That's why it's got some bits of perlite hanging around on the bed, which is alright. It looks a bit weird, but I mean, it can go a bit green and stuff, but it'll be fine. That's all the lettuce in anyway. It's just nice when you suddenly get things going. And you know, you think, well, that's it now, it's big on. And seedlings you can get out now, at least give you a bit of space, because it tends to get a little bit hectic in the old polytunnel. I don't know how many I've pricked out here. I should have enough. Probably have to do these with a trowel though, because like any brassica, plant them deeper down to the first true leaves. Obviously the first leaves are the seed leaves, so I'm frightened of giving them a good firming down. You know, and if we get any rain, because it's been warm, I should imagine the old slugs will be lurking and waiting. So I wasn't going to bother putting a net up, but the old pigeons around, so they can quite happily strip anything you put in. They do have a preference for brassicas, but they'll strip lettuce and all, so, because I had them pecking at my rocket last year. Also, bad once it gets to a bit of a size, I think they just obviously start feeding on something else in the season a bit more. But if they're hungry and your crops are there, well, I go looking. You know, because we had them nesting under our solar panels, but put some mesh around that now. Bloody sick of him cooing away at like 4 in the morning. Don't worry if these lay over or anything, they will find their own way. You know, I don't have to do the drinking straw thing here. Well, I haven't had to yet. I do see the odd leather jacket, but not in the beds. Stones out. Good time while it's dry like this to just hold the top of the beds over, just to keep a check on those weed seeds. Because if your crop's a lot bigger, they're going to become the canopy, which will, you know, slowly have the upper hand against the growing population of weeds. I mean, it's inevitable. There'll be weeds, whatever you do. It's just nature's way of covering the ground. The ground isn't supposed to be bare. You know, if you want cut and come again salads, you know, don't be frightened to plant them fairly close and just pick them small. You know, it's pointless growing everything in the old conventional spacings in raised beds, because you can kind of grow a bit more intensive in a raised bed. You know, so where most things want like 2 foot, something like that, you can sometimes nearly half that. I think the old way with like some of the root veg, you know, carrots was kind of 2 inch apart, onions was 3 or 4 inch apart. You know, yeah, you just get smaller onions, but they store better. So I might close some of my spacings up this year. You know, because you can just keep at it, harvesting them. Take these around the other side. If I can get out of here. Yeah, so I've had a bit of a cold these last few days. Not COVID, thank God. Oh, not really been feeling up to much. It's just been tough to get going, coming out of that winter lull. It's the first time I've actually thought like, oh, can't be bothered. You know, because you know the amount of work there is to do. Once things get going, you soon get that spark back. You know, and you start looking at what you've sort of created. You sit down and eating things that you've grown. Still got stacks of stuff I'm eating from what I grew last year. I picked some purple Sprite and broccoli. Still got another meal left in that yet. But I've not been back down to the plot since. I think I'm going to do my potatoes this year down there, but just dig a trench, do it that way. I don't think I've got the actual energy to dig the full bed over. I just needed to dry out the plot, which it is doing, but you get a heavy downpour, then cause a few problems. Yeah, I think if it doesn't rain tonight, I'll water these tomorrow. Hopefully, if it does rain, those slugs come out. Because when they're this size, a slug can take that growing tip out and that's it. End of story for it. But it's plenty early enough to get another batch going. You know, because obviously as it gets warmer, your seedlings grow faster. You know, so you can get them up to size for planting out in 2 to 3 weeks. I try and do as much as I can in trays and pots before planting out. Try and get, you know, almost half the growing life in a pot. I just find it easier to get the beds full with something else afterwards. You know, because like when you plant something out, I think I've got about 6-7 weeks to get something ready. Kind of like, I'll have a couple of weeks off and then start sowing again. If you want to grow successionally, it's kind of like every 2 weeks, doesn't it? There's not much difference, you know. In the main season it is, but now everything sort of catches up. So I'd probably just, if I was doing any successional growing, I'd probably say 3 to 4 weeks, to be honest. Simple as that. Tag in there. Durham early. I've no tag for them other ones, but yeah, they're called Valian. Right, so we'll get on with some other jobs, I think. Right, we saw some carrots. Just direct in the ground, these ones, so they're not the big carrots in the box. One of the varieties, Sweet Candle, I do that in the one of the boxes. You don't need a deep box, just some 18-inch, 2 foot deep, all the big black tubs. So I just basically made a little drill here, a little bit deeper, you know, because I don't want it to dry out. You know, some people are a bit scared of sowing carrot seeds a little bit deeper, but you know, you don't want them drying out. So they're okay as long as they're not really deep. So these are probably, you know, 10-15 mil down. Because if they dry out, they'll just fail. You know, the way some seeds have been going, actually. You know, there's quite a few duff seeds about. But I'm going to sow some now. I'm going to sow some more just over a month. So I've just used a hoe, made a little drill. Go along, spread these pretty thinly. You will sort of push yourself apart to get a bit too close, but you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's a case of sort of rolling it through your thumb and just move along. Try and aim for about 1 every couple of inches, even though you'll get a cluster of about 4 together. This net I've got rolled up is the EnviroMesh, so just send some of them seeds out. It will keep the root fly out to a degree. You always find a way in, one way or another. So you're going to do carrots. It's better off doing them in such a way where you know they're going to be well protected when the root flies about. It's just a case of going along. If there's any like bare patches, just drop a few seeds in. So once they come up, you can thin them out a bit. You know, if there's any clusters where they're a bit thick, just flick them out. Now, the soil was pre-watered yesterday because it's quite loose soil. It's got sand mixed in with it as well. It is a bit stony low down. You know, there won't be beautiful straight roots in here, all of them, but it's still a carrot at the end of the day. Sometimes I'll water the drill and leave it half an hour to settle. And it's just a case of go along with your hoe and just sort of fill it back in. It'd be easier for me to take this net thing down out of the way, but instead of rebuilding it all again, I'll just persevere with it in the way. Because the next row of carrots will go alongside these, probably about 6-7 inches. You know, but like I say, it's going to be just over a month. So instead of having the ground bare there, I might as well pop something else in, you know, that can give you a bit of a fast crop. That piece of wood's there for a reason as well. You can use it with all seeds, you know. Obviously I'm using it at the moment just to give me a straight edge, but it has another purpose which I'll show you in a minute. I'm just going to go along and tamper that down, not too hard. like I say, it's quite fine soil. That carrots will grow okay, lumpy stuff. If you're not bothered about being bendy around and growing anything, don't need any feed. Such maybe just a little bit of calcified seaweed or something like that, or if you've composted or manured it the year before, it'll be fine. But it is fiddly with this bloody contraption in the way. So all I'm going to do with that plank now, because I don't want it to dry out, I'm going to lay it down right over where I've just sowed them seeds. Like that. It seems weird, but it won't. It's harder for it to evaporate. You know, you can still water the bed, and the water will wick underneath, and then there's humidify underneath that piece of wood. And it's a case of, because carrots will take a couple of weeks to come up sometimes, so just keep checking. And once you can start seeing them coming up, leave the plank off then. So I'll sow another row of. Well, I'll put some radish in actually. So I'll just kind of freehand this one. Because these will be, radish will be out. As soon as the radish are out, I'll be ready to put another row in. Just loosen it up because it's a bit chunky there. So cats keep digging in it. Just kind of making a slit next to it, it's quite lumpy there. If you get any biggish stones, get them out of the way. You know, we make a slit and then just run down it with a hoe handle or a trowel or anything. It's far easier when you've got a straight edge to run it up against. I'll probably space my radish out a fair bit, to be honest, because it's like about an 8-foot row this. It's quite a lot of radish. You know, I won't bother putting a plank of wood over these. I'll just give them a good water, the radish, because they don't take long to germinate at all. Probably 4 to 5 weeks. Probably say 5 weeks max. So you're looking at end of April. They'll be, if it's warmish April, they'll be good to eat. What variety is this? Cherry Belle, Thompson and Morgan. If I can get it in the packet. There we go. And then just simply fill that in. You know, I'll give that water to settle it down. I'll bother putting any water over the top of the carrots. I'll just keep checking underneath. If it starts looking a bit dry underneath the board, then I'll probably give it a water, a very fine watering rose. Because you don't want to wash the seeds out. And then I'll just pop this net over. Just give that a bit of a tamping down. So what I'm going to do for next year, I'm going to make myself a couple of little portable Enviromesh nets that I can move about. Because I have one net, but it's not Enviromesh, which is handy for sort of temporary coverings. So that's the radish. I'm going to do these boxes tomorrow, but I won't video that. It's just a case of a little indentation in the top of the compost, about 3 or 4 seeds. When they germinate, thin it out to the best one. But I've only got old seeds, so we'll have to see how they go. But yeah, so we've got stuff growing. Right, that's it for this video. So next one will be another week or two, probably planting out some more lettuce and maybe planting some up at the plot, probably the garlic. I'm going to try and hold off on my onions a little bit. I don't really want to pot them on, so we'll just see what the weather forecast is like, because still going to get some cold nights. I guarantee in April there's going to be some cold ones, so just hold some of your crops back as long as you can. As long as they've not root bound, you've got to protect them. I take the gamble. Sometimes it doesn't pay off, but there's no harm in sacrificing some crop just to see if you can get an early one. But there's always a backup. Most of the time anyway. So I can sow some more lettuce now if I want to, but I'm not going to because I've got enough to put out in a couple of weeks. So that's it for this video. So thanks for watching. Take care, and I will see you next one. See you now. Bye bye.